Apparently, Mr. Andrew Wilson.
Now, to give you the background on this gentleman, this is Travis Pangburn. He is a left-winger who has tried to break into the debate scene, hosting debates between right-wingers and left-wingers. However, he engages in shady business practices, as we're going to get to. And here he has decided to come up with a conspiracy against me, which has its roots in notorious liar and slanderer, Tree of Logic. Let's give this a watch, shall we?
Mr. Andrew Wilson is engaging in stolen valor.
What? Oh boy, engaging in that old stolen valor, says Travis Pangburn. All of this, of course, cited to Tree of Logic.
When were you in the Army?
I was in the Army for a very limited amount of time, years and years ago.
How long was that very limited amount of time, if you don't mind me asking?
It wasn't very long, about a year.
Yeah.
Wasn't very long, about a year. Now, here I am on a TikTok invasion. And during this TikTok invasion, instead of allowing these people to deflect to something that is irrelevant and is meaningless, right, in order to move the conversation, the argument along, I just say no, and we move along.
So did you serve, Andrew?
I did not, no.
Before these scams.
Irrelevant to the argument, and so there was no reason to bog it down. This was an argument about whether or not people should vote based around service or not service.
Scammers cry about me taking this out of context. Here's the full context.
And that's pretty much independent of intelligence.
They seem to be joining the Army based around patriotism, the ability to get paid, the ability to do things like that. What's that?
When were you in the Army?
I was in the Army for a very limited amount of time, years and years ago. I was in the Army for a very limited amount of time, years and years ago.
How long was that very limited amount of time, if you don't mind me asking?
This is off the top of my head because it was 20 years ago. It wasn't very long, about a year. About a year.
About a year. So what happened?
Well, it doesn't matter what happened.
Oh, but we're talking about service, man.
What about it?
So you want to disenfranchise people?
Just people prying for information, right? As is very typified. Got blocked by that Jen chick on X, apparently calling someone a bleeping low IQ is frowned upon, probably.
People based on military service. I actually know why most people join the
What are
Army.
you talking about? How would I disenfranchise them based on military? Anyway, this guy was really stupid and didn't even understand the argument, as I was pointing out to him. If it was the case that we base this on military service, how would you get disenfranchised if you served in the military, dumbass? That makes no sense. It's dumb service.
No,
it would be the opposite.
If you're requiring people to serve
No,
in
it wouldn't
military.
require them. Even Naima had to correct him because of how stupid her boyfriend is. To serve in the Army. There had to be some sort of service which was rendered before you were allowed to vote, yeah. And I reinforced the position here. The service wouldn't necessarily require military service.
Like military?
Military service, maybe.
Yeah. So did you serve, Andrew?
I did not, no.
So then you wouldn't qualify, huh?
Did I say it was exclusive to military service, though?
Well, I don't understand. What other kind of public service could you do
just gave
besides
you-
defending your
I
country?
just gave you several.
Excuse me. I know that you're a
Excuse me, I'm talking. That chick was such a bitch.
red pill mother. But here's the deal. I'm going to put you on mute while I finish
that'll
because
teach
you
me.
clearly don't let women finish.
You asked me a question, though.
So yeah, so there's nothing more patriotic and more civil service in your point of view that, or my point of view, than there is defending your country, which you didn't have the testicular fortitude to do. And so for you to go, maybe if you served in the military, is wild, Andrew.
By the way, that chick lost that debate badly.
Stolen valor.
So to get this right, the way that I stole valor was when I was asked a question on the Whatever podcast, I honestly answered the guy. And when I was doing a TikTok invasion where I go in under a pseudonym because otherwise I can't get these people to talk to me at all, I told them I basically to move the conversation along. And because let's be real, right? I don't really consider, well, we'll get into that. But anyway, that's it. That's their whole evidence of stolen. That's their whole evidence, and it all comes from Tree of Logic and this idiot Travis Pangburn.
Valor is the act of falsely claiming or implying that you served in the military, or
It's not, but I'll just grant it.
exaggerating your military service, valor, honors,
Yeah, that's more like it.
etc.
Yeah, well, Andrew, how are you going to debunk being a reptilian? Yeah.
Stolen valor typically harms well-being, physical, mental, and social health by betraying veterans who genuinely endured trauma, creating resentment and distrust.
They literally did. They fell for a bit. These people fell for a TikTok bit. That's how stupid they are. Along with left-wing extraordinaire Travis Pangburn here, who actually I think knew that it was a bit and doesn't care. Doesn't care, made the whole thing up.
Damaging the liar's integrity and psychological stability. When it comes to social health, this can diminish trust between citizens. This can also cheapen honors that exist to honor extraordinary sacrifice. This is also direct evidence of bad faith engagement. It violates honesty and sincerity of intention.
Yeah, when people are bad faith, I'm bad faith back to them, you piece of shit.
People like
Now, you
Andrew
might want to
Wilson.
wonder why it is that Mr. Pangburn here seems to have a bone to pick with me. None of you guys have ever seen him before, after all. So why does Mr. Pangburn hate my guts so badly that he ran with a tree of logic, out of context bunch of clips, right, in order to try to frame me as a stolen valor recipient because I answered a question honestly on the Whatever podcast when I was asked. Grok prompt I used against your claim your pick was AI. If you consider that toy is often autocorrected from you, wouldn't indicate the person made an error instead of AI. Well, it's not AI, so there's that. Part 2, it's also likely the white mouse cursor is his own mouse pointing to something. Yeah, that's what the mouse was on the thing that came around. So anyway, that's it. I told him the truth. I was just like, hey, look, I was in the Army for a short amount of time, right? Got hurt, washed out. That's it. Pretty easy, right? Literally all I said. When I'm asked this question, I usually just don't even bother to discuss it because it's very trivial and meaningless to me, and always has been. It doesn't have a lot of meaning. 20 years ago, who gives a shit? So why does Travis Pangburn hate my guts so badly that he decided that he was going to make a, quote, stolen valor video that then these morons decided that they were going to run with without doing any of their due diligence whatsoever? Well, here's where the conspiracy gets interesting. 1 second here. Let me pull this up for you guys. It's just lovely. This is a DM set back and forth that I'm about to read to you from Mr. Travis Pangburn, the same person who made that video. This was in May 10th of 2025. This video that he made, wouldn't you know it? Wouldn't you know it? Let's see. It was When did he make this? 1 month ago. So not in 2025. Mr. Pangburn DMs me and he says, hey, Andrew, I'm looking forward to seeing if we can get you on the Pangburn stage for a few debates. And I said, what's that? I don't know what that is. What's the Pangburn stage? He says, we've worked with world's top authors in science and philosophy, and I'm thinking your debut on the Pangburn stage should be Lawrence Krauss debating the existence of God. With new debaters on our stage, we typically start low for a fee for the first event to gauge the personality's audience. You and Krauss would both receive the same offer in a smaller theater to start. It would be a $1,000 guarantee plus 50% of the net ticket revenue. If you're in, I'll explore some dates with you and Krauss and see what works. And I said, and travel expenses? He said, all covered. All covered. Anyway, I didn't think much more about it. I went to sleep. Anyway, this is June 11th, right? After I just wasn't thinking about this at all, he sends me this follow-up. Hey, man, just following up on this, I just spoke to Krauss, and he's dealing with some things at the moment and isn't available, but I think you and Richard Carrier would have a fantastic live discussion on the existence of God. I'm in touch with him at the moment. And I said, I'm fine with that, depending on the topic. I'm easy to work with, so I'll just be super blunt. It comes down to the money offer. Copy that. I'll get back to you soon on this, he says. Gets back to me, and he says, on June 16th, and here's what he says. While I wait to hear back from Richard, I believe he's on vacation at the moment, I'd like to book you in for the God debate against Dennis Prager's left-wing atheist nephew, Dandon Prager. The deal would be the same as for Richard, $1,000 guarantee plus 50% of any net ticket revenue. If you're in, let me know where you are based out of so I can think of an appropriate location. Thanks. Okay. I said, God debate, though, being what? He says, I think, does the God of the Bible exist would be great. The format would be open dialogue like we did with Peterson Harris and most recently Alex O'Connor. And I responded to him. I said, that's a topic for a Christian apologist. I would do something like, are Christian ethics better than secular ethics? Do atheist societies produce better outcomes for people? The debate you're talking about is a presuppositional debate based on epistemic claims, not really my wheelhouse. Jay Dyer would be better for that. He gets back to me June 17th. Are Christian ethics better than secular ethics? Works for Dan. I'll send you some potential dates, and we'll very likely want to do this in New York City. I said, send some dates. I'll look at them. Now, does this other dude get a section of the ticket sales as well? Dan won't be in on any net ticket proceeds. The other 50% goes to Pangburn. We'll formalize the contract once the date venue is set. Now, why is that important to me? Because I sell out every event I do. That's why it's important. And because I sell out every event I do, I usually like to have a contract with the people who I do events with that I get 50% of the take. Right? Which I think is fair. And usually the event organizer thinks it's fair too. Most people actually ask for much more, 70, 80%. I don't even do that. I just say we'll split it 50-50. He says, Richard Carrier's on board now as well. I'll send you a firm offer soon. What email can I use? I said, just use this. He says, are you free November 8th in New York City? Richard Carrier versus Andrew Wilson. Topic would be something like, are Christian ethics better than secular ethics? I said, which are better for society, Christian ethics or secular humanism? What about that topic? He said, would you be open to our Christian ethics good? And I said, that's a trap. Would he be open to our secular ethics good? LOL. No, this is a paradigm debate about how society is run and affected by both paradigms. We both have a positive claim. He doesn't want to take a positive position, even though I'm willing to. Atheist. He responds, that suggestion didn't come from him, but I'm bouncing ideas off to see what he thinks. And I said, okay. He said, Carrier has agreed to your proposed topic, Christian ethics versus secular humanism, which is better for society. And I said, let's do it. Let's do it. He says, I'll send you the contract here shortly. This will be in New York City. We were just there. Great venue. I said, wish you guys could do it in a more friendly state. I'd feel a lot better. He said, we'll keep that in mind for the next one. I said, what are the dates here? He says, November 8th. I said, that may conflict with DebateCon. And then I checked with James and sent him a DM back and said, don't worry about it. It's not going to. Well, I checked the schedule that I had with James. So he asked for a high-res image for the poster. I give it to him. He says, sweet, blah, 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 right? Seems innocent enough until he gives me the contract. Till he gives me the contract. Now let me show you the contract. Here's the Pangburn offer. Here we go. Let me zoom in so that you guys can read it alongside me. It says, official offer between Pangburn and Andrew Wilson. Preamble, Pangburn wishes to present live discussion, blah, 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 blah. Therefore, the terms and conditions set before, blah, 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 blah. PP means Pangburn, blah, blah, blah. Right? Doesn't really say much here on page 1. Then we'll get to page 2 of the offer. It says the terms of this agreement is for November 8th. This is a complete agreement between PP and AW in relation to the subject matter. PP will film the event, post contents on their YouTube channel and other platforms. RC may create monetized video shorts, blah, blah, blah. Pretty standard stuff. Until we get here to the bottom of it. And wouldn't you know it, this tried to f me over. AW will be guaranteed $500 USD as a fee, and AW agrees to keep his fee confidential. PP will cover all travel expenses for AW. So half of what he promised, no ticket sales. They lied to me. Now, as you could imagine, I was not happy about this. Was not thrilled with old Pangburn lying his off to me and then trying to get me to sign a contract that I guess he just thought that I wasn't going to read. Snake mother. Not being thrilled with this turn of events, I had some words for Mr. Pangburn. And I quoted him. Quote, "This is what you sent me. The deal will be the same as for Richard. $1,000 guarantee plus 50% of any net ticket revenue. If you're in, let me know where you're based out of so I can think on the appropriate location. Thanks." I said, "What the dude? $500? I think I'll pass." Bad way to do business, by the way. Bad way to do business. He says, "It was a typo." I'm not kidding. He said, it was a typo. And I said, a typo that you didn't include any of the ticket sales. And how do you typo out 500 instead of 1,000? Huh? How do you do that? How do you do that? You don't do that. He tried to me. Slimy mother. So I sent it to him and I said, he said, "Yeah, the whole payment section was copied incorrectly. Our mistake. Apologies. We can adjust." Mind you, I was the biggest debater in that time who was going to go on their platform, not the thing you up with a quote typo. On a contract, bullshit. Yeah, total bullshit. Lying sacks of shit. Here's what I said. "No thanks. Sending over a formal contract missing the price mark by half and not including the critical part of the agreement looks malicious to me. I put that in the same category as a con. Good luck to you in your future endeavors, but no thanks." No thanks. He says, "I think you should offer a little grace here. We're issuing many contracts for many different shows, and sometimes there are mistakes. My team is usually very accurate, but have made a mistake here. In this business contract, errors do happen, but we do apologize. I'm surprised this would make you walk. If there's an error in the contract, typically it's pointed out and we adjust." I said, "Yeah, typically that's the case for me too. I understand mistakes happen, but I also understand that I'm supposed to count on you to actually be upfront with ticket sales so I can correctly get paid the right amount. Maybe you have a few debates in the works, but not so many you should lose track of this. Maybe 3, I'm guessing. There isn't enough of us to meet the demand. And remember, I've been on both ends of this, the booking and the debating side. That shot a red flag the size of the Death Star. And if you have other debaters in the mainstream willing to vouch for you, who you have done business with you before, I'm willing to reconsider." That's what I said. If you have people who are large debaters in the debate sphere who are willing to vouch for you, I'm willing to reconsider, Mr. Pangburn. That's not correct. I always handle my husband's contracts personally and never rely on the requester to draft them. They contacted you, so here are the requirement. Yeah, piece of shit. 1,000 to 500 are kind of similar if you're a mile away squinting. Yeah, and 10 in, exactly. So he says, "Andrew, I've been very patient here. We've offered you a great opportunity to have this discussion with Richard Carrier on our stage, which is home to some of the highest quality live discussions that have occurred in the past 10 years. We have a lot of business going on. Mistakes happen. We can fix the error on your contract and get you signed, or we will move on. Thanks." And I said, "Move on. I'm so glad you're being so patient with somebody who's infamous for being easy to work with, like notoriously known for being easy to work with, in fact, me. And acting as though this breakdown was due to me being unreasonable or something. Post this entire conversation publicly and see if people think I'm the unreasonable one. Have a nice day." That was it. You. Tried to me over. And he couldn't get a single person to vouch for him. Not one. Just negated the entire idea of the ticket sales. I wasn't going to get 50%. It went from 1,000 to 500. He tried to me over. So I contacted my buddy James at Modern Day Debate, and I said, "I'd still like to do this Richard Carrier debate, and this guy just tried to me over, and you never have. You've always been a straight shooter. You've always paid exactly what you claim you're going to. I've had good experience with you for the most part. I'd still like to do the Carrier debate." So James went and booked Richard Carrier, and we did that now infamous debate. So Mr. Pangburn is really mad at yours truly. He's really not very happy with me. And so, as a form of maliciousness, he decided to make up this entire con story. This is why you shouldn't do business with the guy. Made up an entire con story about me which was the entire architect of it was Tree of Logic, and Pangburn, the left winger, ran with it, made a video about it out of context, lied about the whole thing. His name is Travis Pangburn. What a piece of shit. Now, of course, when this video comes out, I was laughing my ass off because I thought, how stupid could you possibly be? Like, I have all the evidence that you tried to me over, bro. Why would you go and then try to make this video as your like little revenge plot? I have all the receipts, dumbass. But he did. And wouldn't you know it, a bunch of Candace Owens lunatics who refused to do their due diligence ran with this as though it was ever real, as though it was ever real. And it's just a leftist smear campaign from a guy who tried to me over because I'm a conservative and thought he could get away with it. Let's start with the first claim, the FFL. He's going to need some of that good positive evidence, isn't he? Now, also, these guys think that saying the word positive evidence is a dunk because they don't understand what it even means, and a simple Google search would have taken care of all of this for them in seconds. Positive evidence just means evidence that points to something having happened. Negative evidence means evidence pointing to something not having happened. They don't even know what it means. They think it's a dunk, and they don't even know what it means because they're so stupid. Very, very, very stupid people. Hang on. Let me pull this up for you. Oh, holy sh**. Oh, what's this say? Oh, wow. Hang on. Oh, it's a FFL. Oh, my God. It's a federal firearms license. You waffle. You moron. You stupid idiot. Oh, my God. Look, dealer in firearms other than destructive devices, issued 2017. Wow. It's an FFL. Oh, look. Oh, my God. It says, what's that name right there? Holy sh**. What's it say? Oh, it says Wilson Andrew on it. Oh, holy sh**. Oh, my God. Oh, owned. Andrew owned. He's going to need to see some positive evidence. There's your positive evidence, you stupid idiot. Dumbass fell for a leftist stop because you're stupid as just dumb as dog shit, these people. Oh, sorry about that. Look at that. But that's just one. I've had three. I've had three of them, you idiot. 3. But what about the rest? Was Andrew ever in the Army? Oh, my God. Oh, it's a stolen Valor from our made-up con. Holy shit.
I'm so sorry that
Holy shit. It's stolen. It's from our completely made-up con that we completely made up. Bam. National Guard Bureau report of separation and record of service. Andrew Wilson. My pay grade was E2 because I got a promotion. I'll get into that for why I did, even though I wasn't in very long. Let's see, the total service for pay, 10 months, 11 days. Total service for retired pay, 10 months, 11 days. So about a year. Just like I said. What was the reason, though, for the separation, Andrew? What was it? It's dishonorable discharge. It was none of that. None of that. Because just like I said, I got hurt. And there's the Guard 214, just like other people in the National Guard have been using for years. There you go. I was to be assigned to the 221st in Earrington, just like I've said. Supposed to be a Cav Scout, just like I've said. There you go. Always let them hang themselves. Now, there's more. Here's my official discharge papers as well. Wilson Andrew, E2, PV2, 221st Cavalry. Effective date, 2nd August 2007. Type of discharge, uncharacterized. They actually put a code in the former page, and I'll explain to you guys exactly what happened to me so that you understand. It's a hell of a story, even though it's not at all. Not even a little bit. So, I idolized my older brother. idolized him. He joined the Army a couple of years before I did, and he was sent to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. I was sent to Fort Knox for training. And he joined, during wartime. And there's a long tradition in my family of people doing that. And I thought, from my stupid view, I viewed my brother as being a hero. I really did. I thought of him as being, that's how I viewed him. That's literally how I viewed him. Valhalla trying to be a discount Jay Dyer, yeah. And so I wanted to, he was a 13 Bravo, red leg. I wanted to emulate him in many ways because I had a lot of respect for him. And I thought what he was doing was great. So anyway, I joined the Army in his footsteps, right? Because I also wanted to serve. Anyway, after I went downrange to training, this was I don't know, I don't remember what week it was, 4 or 5. I don't know. Okay. There was a night when I got up and I was going to the bathroom, and you couldn't walk barefoot, right? You had to have socks on and sandals and okay. And I was going to the bathroom and I noticed there was a bunch of guys who were standing outside of the door, which, now normally the way I understood it was that everybody would stay in a big bay. We actually didn't, because there were so many people who were training at the time. They actually gave us rooms, and there was about 4 or 5 of us to a room. Okay. So as I go in, and I'm trying to, I just want to go to the bathroom. They're standing and they're like, we can't get into this bathroom. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's kind of strange. And when I put my ear up to the door, I could hear somebody in there, and it sounded like they were choking. So I grabbed the door, and it was pretty much flimsy and wood, and I yanked it as hard as I could and busted it open. I ran inside, and there was a kid in there who was actually, he was hanging himself. That's what he was doing. And, it was a bad scene. So how he did this was he had opened up the stall door, and there was like little coat rack hooks on the stall door. And he had tied his legs together, and then he had tied a piece of wire around his neck, and he had put it up on that stall door on that hook. And then he just dropped straight down. And because he had tied his legs together at the knee, he couldn't bend them. So he was just sitting there strangling. He was just dying. So I ran over and I grabbed the top of the stall door and I ripped the whole door down to get him on the ground, to get him to start breathing again. And he did, right? When he was on the ground, he started breathing. And finally a drill sergeant, he wasn't even an actual drill sergeant. He was like a drill sergeant in training, basically, ran into the bathroom. And, I'm sitting here with him, and we're pulling this off of this kid. And his eyeballs was like bulged out of his face, because when he had dropped, right? I still don't even know how he accomplished this, but when he dropped, it like gave him a shock right to the throat, and his eyes were like bugged out of his head. So anyway, we got him down, and then, medical came over and this type of thing. And, they moved me over to basically a drill sergeant's office where they're trying to figure out what the fuck was going on. And anyway, the post commander came actually down. His name was Groves. And he came down and came into the room. And he actually, he didn't just shake my hand, he gave me a hug. And he was like, this should never have happened. This was awful. It sucked. It wasn't good. Okay. But he said he was going to put in a good word for me. And I guess he must have, because the next week I was I don't remember if it was the next week. I don't remember. It's 20 years ago. You know what I mean? I don't remember. But it was like within a few weeks or something like this, when I was out training, I was a squad leader, and we were just doing regular exercise. We weren't even getting smoked. We were just doing push-ups, and my side started to hurt real bad. And so they asked me to fall out, which I did. And they took me to the hospital. They found a condition. I'm not going to get into it, but the condition existed before I joined, and just nobody knew about it. Nobody had any idea what the condition was. They just didn't know. I didn't know. Medical screening didn't know. Nobody knew. So anyway, they sent me home. And then they parked me with another company for like 10 months, where I still went and I did training and I did all of that. And during that time, they promoted me from E1 to E2. And I always assumed that it had something to do with that, because I didn't understand why the fuck I was getting promoted. But I got promoted from an E1 to E2. Yay. Whatever the fuck that means. But that's why I always thought that had probably happened, was because of that. Pre-existing condition results in an ELS, which is why the discharge is uncharacterized. Yeah, there's no dishonorable discharge, nothing like that. I went, I did the best that I could do. I had an existing condition that I didn't know that I had. And that was it. But this was not a fun time for me in my life. I don't really like thinking about that stuff. And so I don't like to discuss it. I don't like to talk about it. It's not fun for me to do. And I don't care. It has nothing to do with anything that I do. There's no reason I should have to talk about experiences that I had 20 years ago. They're not relevant to anything. And nobody's ever looking to get more information about me because they want good things for me. They're always looking to get more information about me so that they can stalk my family, stalk my friends, and turn the lunatics of the internet loose on the people that I care about. And that's all that's happening. So that was it. That's everything. That's the whole tale, the whole story that I never tried to hide from anybody ever. I just never discussed it because it's not important or pertinent to a thing I do in life at all. I was asked the question one time. I showed you the clip. I answered it honestly. I was there for a very short amount of time, about a year. What did my paperwork say? I was there for a short amount of time, about a year. That's it. You saved a young man's life during your military service. That's commendable and fair game to throw in their face in this climate. I just don't know why they fall for these leftist ops and why it is that I even have to bother justifying things that I've never made claims on. My entire existence publicly, you can find no other claim than this, ever. You have to know they're going to do everything they can to destroy you. Stay strong, fight the good fight. I'm aware. Had a kid in basic that had cancer they didn't find till right before graduation. Also, for those people, try to unalive themselves all the time in basic, mostly because of the Fear John letters. Yeah. Real and honest is more than all those. That's it. And because of this, they have tried to crucify me on complete fake information. This is the official Andrew Wilson apology form for those who spread gossip, lies, and baseless slander. It is to be submitted to Andrew Wilson of the Crucible, your full name, social media handle, platform where your lies were shared, and the dates of the offenses. The offense, I was spreading gossip, lies, or malicious assumptions about Andrew Wilson, and these can include, but are not limited to, and check all, which are here, false accusations, out of context clips or quotes, rumors presented as facts, mockery and personal insults, screenshots with zero context, or I don't even know, I just wanted attention because I'm a embarrassing human being. There you go. That would be great. Under section 3, the truth, exposing yourself. Now I understand either A, I was wrong, I didn't have all the facts, I was being manipulated, I let emotion override logic, I was jealous, bored, or terminally online, or other. And if you could please specify, I'd appreciate that. Also, there's a line here for your sincere apology. Write your apology below, be honest, be specific, and be a grown-up. Also, under 5, this is your commitment to do better. I hereby commit to fact check before I speak or post, stop consuming rage bait as if it were news, apologize publicly where my lies were posted, respect Andrew Wilson, the work of the Crucible, touch grass and log off more often, or just be better. I also need you to know that you understand that the spread of falsehoods does real damage, and you take full responsibility and offer your sincere apology to Andrew Wilson. This is your stamp seal where you get to grow the up and tell the truth. Why you should do this? Because you went out of your way to lie publicly as much as you possibly could. You never released what you actually sent in to find the quote information that anybody with the correct information could have found because you're a lying scumbag. That is malicious slander, malicious slander. And I have no problem at this point in my career doing something about that. So you owe it to me for being a fuckhead and a lying, gutless snake. So fill out the form, send it over. I'll accept your apology. Piece of shit. Now that I've allowed all of my enemies to hang themselves with their own words because they're really stupid, now you can fill out the form and say you're sorry. Andrew, you have to know they're going to do everything they can. Yeah, I know. I'm aware these people are just scum.